my stepdad becomes my husband. This is the ending premise of a manga that started off as wholesome and family-friendly. I mean, just look at the cover. How cute, how innocent. Usagi Job tells the story of a single dad raising his adoptive daughter. This manga used to be on everyone's recommended list for how wholesome and heartwarming the father-daughter relationship was depicted. Unlike some other mangas where cultural barriers or weird tropes might throw people off, Usagi Job is so universally appropriate and easily digestible that it was deemed suitable to read by all ages and all demographics. But then it turned into incest, with the daughter developing romantic feelings for her dad. The dad, despite being reluctant at first, tells her that if she's still in love with him after graduating high school, he will consider dating her. The story ends with the daughter still in love with the dad after graduating high school, them considering getting married, and her thinking about bearing his child. Now, some may say, okay, that's disgusting and weird and all, but that sort of incestuous romance exists in Western media as well. It's a trope found everywhere in the world. Like, people have all kinds of weird fetishes, and this is nothing new. Well, the difference is that in the West, incestuous romance is largely perceived as a taboo-ish kink, something frowned upon. So it's typically kept in niche places. By niche, I mean sus websites or some online forums for degenerates. It's definitely not something you'd expect to see from a family-friendly media source. Like, they wouldn't be showing incest in a Disney movie, for example. However, in East Asian media, sometimes you'll see incest in broad daylight from sources that brand themselves as wholesome and innocent. How is this okay? It's okay because the characters are not blood related, and therefore it is not incest, period, by East Asian standard. Even though their relationship has clearly demonstrated characteristics of a family bond, such as the guardianship element or the nurturing dynamic where one side is clearly emotionally and financially reliant on the other, something you typically only see among family members. But hey, no blood means problem-free. With this guiding principle in mind, let's mention some other examples. Violet Evergarden, one of the most hyped coming out of age anime. I remember this show being pushed so much by Netflix to every anime watcher during COVID quarantine as if it was the new hallmark of non-sus anime. It is another highly praised show, widely perceived as wholesome and pure, albeit with a tinge of sadness as it touches on some deeper themes. Overall, nothing controversial or problematic should ever come out of this show, which would have been the case if the show ended with the anime seasons, but it did not. They made a follow-up movie, and in that movie, they made a plot move despicably similar to Usagi Job, with the two characters, Violet and Major, confessing their romantic love to each other, which is pretty freaking weird because up until that point, their relationship has very much resembled a father-daughter one, or a guardian and a ward. I mean, he practically raised her. She was a 14-year-old child orphan. He was 28 or 29 years old. He named her and taught her many aspects of life, doing all these things that a father-ish figure would do. And to those arguing that the confession scene is not meant to be romantic, go read the light novel where the story is adapted from. It explicitly says that they start dating and eventually move in together. So now we're starting to see a pattern. Stories that start off looking completely innocent somehow derail in this unhinged, unexpected direction. But it's not unexpected. They never saw each other as family figures. Like in Usagi Job, remember how the girl refused to call him father since the beginning? As long as people don't address each other as family members, then it's not incest, right? Well, here's another interesting example from a famous C drama called Go Ahead. This drama aired in 2020 and it was a huge hit in China, setting a record for the highest viewership count on the TV channel it aired on. It was also popular globally, becoming one of the most viewed C-dramas on YouTube. So if you don't know, most C-dramas can be watched directly on YouTube from the production company's channel. Now, I don't know how they came up with this English translation Go Ahead as the drama title, which has nothing to do with the original title. The original Chinese title actually means In the Name of Family, which right off the bat tells you what this drama is about. Familial love. 3 kids that are not blood related end up living in the same family, essentially becoming step-siblings. And this time, unlike in Usagi Job or Violet, they actually acknowledge each other as family members. The girl addresses the 2 boys as elder brothers.
哥，
And although the two boys address her by her nickname instead of calling her sister, all three of them call the same man father. So there should be no ambiguity around it this time. The clear indication is that they are siblings. And the first half of the drama does exactly that, showing them growing up as siblings, which is the whole theme of this drama, that family is not necessarily about blood relations. It's about supporting each other. It's about this bond that transcends biological ties.
没血缘关系，不姓一个姓，咱们也是一家子。
This line right here, it moved me to tears the first time I watched this show. However, knowing what happened later on, I can't help but feel like a complete naive dumbass. Yep, you know where this is going. This drama turned to incest halfway through. Although the girl still sees the two guys as only brothers and nothing more, the eldest brother starts to show strong romantic feelings towards her. And the way that unfolds is pretty unpleasant. Like, she clearly does not feel that way yet, while he's already taking moves, like kissing her when she's unconscious in her sleep, which kind of gives off that Edward stalking Bella vibe. It's just creepy. Oh, and by the way, the middle brother also confesses to her and proposes to marry her. So now we've officially got a love triangle between three siblings. As soon as this happened, I dropped this drama, not putting up with this. But if you're curious about the ending, she ends up with the eldest brother according to my spoiler research. Now, the reason why I find this example particularly interesting is that, remember, C dramas have to go through censorship before being aired on national TV. CCP's media department needs to make sure every show meets certain ethical standards. So if it deems a show having bad ethics, it will not allow it to air. It is for this reason that CCP bans LGBT shows, because LGBT marriage is illegal in China. Now, let that sink in with you. The fact that they would ban LGBT romance yet approve shows like this with quasi-incest really says something about their values. And speaking of C dramas, if you're a shipper of this type of step-sibling romance, I've got good news for you. Apparently next year, they're scheduled to release at least 7 C dramas featuring a step-sibling romance plot. Many of them star A-list actors. For example, this drama, which recently finished filming, stars actress Esther Yu, one of the most popular actresses in recent years. Based on the novel it's adapted from, apparently it tells the story of a girl who falls in love with her stepbrother, whom she only discovers is her stepbrother when she turns 19. So I'm assuming before that she had always thought of him as her biological brother. Wait a second. How do you suddenly develop romantic feelings for someone you've always seen as a biological family member? This is even worse than Go Ahead. At least in Go Ahead, they knew they're not related from the beginning. Oh, it's got a trailer already? Let's check out the trailer.
你们根本没有血缘关系。
你别把我想太好了。
就算没有血缘关系，他也始终是我哥。
我也昏头了。
What did I just watch? Clearly there must be viewers like me who think there's something wrong with this plot, right? So I read through the online reviews of the trailer seeking validation. But nope, it's largely been positively received. The only type of criticism is on things like casting choice or audio quality. Not one comment questions the basis of the story. What is going on? All these lead to my research topic of this video. Why is incest romance so widely accepted by East Asian audiences? Alright, I know I said research topic, but with this subject matter, it's practically impossible to conduct empirical work. Like, I don't know how I'm supposed to collect data by interviews. That's too embarrassing. No way I'm letting my acquaintances know I'm interested in this type of stuff. So FYI, the rest of this video is not based on any scientific or empirical evidence. It's just me, a random person, yapping about my hypotheses. I personally think there are 2 surface level factors and 1 deeper factor that explain why romance between step families is popular in East Asian media. The first surface level factor is the lack of an adoption culture. In East Asia, it's very rare to hear about anyone adopting a child or to know anyone who's been adopted. Part of this is due to traditional values, aka Confucianism, which places strong emphasis on bloodlines and the maintenance of family lineage through biological heirs. This can lead to a reluctance to adopt, which is evident from adoption statistics. All 3 countries have significantly lower child adoption rates compared to the US and much of Europe. Moreover, there's a kind of social stigma associated with adopted kids. kids. For example, research on educational outcomes for orphan Korean children suggests that adopted kids are more likely to become the target of bullying in Korean schools. As a result, when kids do get adopted, often it's done in a secretive way, like the parents will hide the adoption status and lie and say they're actually their biological child. Because adoption is so rare, people aren't used to seeing it the same way as a biological family. So one can argue that this has led to a devaluation of adopted familyship, in the sense that people almost view adoptive families as a less legitimate form of family. Step siblings, that means they're not real siblings. So if they like each other romantically, that's fair game. The second surface level factor is media gaslighting. The way East Asian media portrays romance on screen can be quite manipulative, in the sense that if they want you to root for a couple, they will film, edit, and produce it in a way that makes it impossible to not become a shipper. It makes you feel extremely guilty for ever questioning the moral or ethical basis of the relationship. Like they're just two little individuals desperately seeking love, so why would anyone want to get in the way of their happiness? The melodramatic background music, the running, the cinematic tone, the ultra-emotional facial expressions. How could you watch this and not root for them? Is your heart made of stone? And compared to Western media, the lack of sex scenes in East Asian shows actually plays to its favor, further perpetuating the wholesome, pure vibes. In comparison, when you watch Cersei and Jaime make out in Game of Thrones, I don't think you will go, yo, this is true love, I'm in. Instead, you probably feel disgusted because it's just lust, which makes it nothing but scandalous. So I personally fell victim to this media manipulation with a K-drama called That Winter the Wind Blows. This is a pseudo-sibling romance drama, and the plot goes something like this. The male protagonist fakes his ID to pretend to be the elder brother of the female protagonist in order to scam her for money, and she believes him. So they interact as brother and sister, but during the process, they fall in love romantically. So again, very messed up plot. But when I first watched it at 13 years old, I ate this up. I shipped them so hard that I wanted to destroy anyone or anything that got in their way, be it other characters or even society and ethics in general. I questioned why their brother-sister context was even an issue, because the show does such a good job at portraying their chemistry that viewers can't help but throw their sanity away. It wasn't until this year, when a 20-something-year-old me rewatched it, that I began to realize, hold on, there's something wrong with this plot. This is wacky. So I had been gaslighted this whole time, overlooking how weird that relationship was. However, media gaslighting and lack of an adoption culture only explain why the audience accepts what is being pushed to them. They do not explain why the audience may actively seek for incest romance. Explaining that requires a deeper cause. And here is my hypothesis. I argue that what makes incest romance disturbing is precisely what makes it popular in East Asia. Think about it. Why is incest romance so disgusting and disturbing? The inbreeding part is not the only aspect that makes it gross. There's also an aspect of power imbalance. When one character takes on a guardian's role, or when one side completely relies on the other for financial and emotional support. Yet this power imbalance might just be the thing that turns people on. Because you know what else is really popular in East Asia? Teacher-student romance.
师傅，请喝茶。
So East Asian media seems to have this habit of turning someone's dependency on a caregiver or mentor into romance. Like in almost all the examples I've mentioned today, it always starts with a young person who's either financially or emotionally vulnerable, gets taken care of by a guardian-like figure, forms strong attachment to that figure, which later evolves into romantic love. In Usagi Job, the story begins with the girl losing her family and having nowhere else to go. That's when the male protagonist took her in. He then provided everything for her, becoming her every and only safety net. In Violet Evergarden, not only did Major take care of Violet and introduce her to the world, it was also implied that Major was the only one who was nice to her back then. So again, him being her sole protector and support system. In Go Ahead, although the girl did not technically act as a guardian to the boy, she was his emotional support. Whenever he had a depressive episode or anxiety attack, he always turn to the girl for emotional comfort, essentially treating her as a therapist. Now, many of you may say, okay, you don't need to be this wordy. Isn't that just called grooming? Well, here's how the slyness of East Asian media comes in. In order to make it seem less like grooming, the writers will usually make the subordinate take the move, the person who's in the lower position of power. For example, in Usagi Job, they made the girl take the initiative. And they will often add an episode of the guardian pushing back or initially saying no to make them not look creepy and predatory. This plot design not only mitigates controversies regarding grooming, it also gets to capitalize on a particular psychological vulnerability found amongst some East Asians: insecure attachment style from when you're a child. So attachment theories suggest that bonds formed between you and your caregiver in childhood can significantly shape how you form adult relationships. According to an NIH psychology study, people from the East Asian region have the highest levels of attachment anxiety, with insecure attachment being the most prevalent attachment style, arguably caused by caregivers who are overly focused on the kids' academic or career success instead of providing emotional nurturing. On the other hand, romance dramas or romance novels often present an idealized fantasy of what we otherwise wouldn't experience in real life. Like, many of us read a novel or watch a show for escapism, getting away from the distasteful reality. Therefore, the mentor's role, whether as a teacher, a guardian, or caretaker, almost acts as an idealized psychological anchor. So what you think is love is rather a reflection of your desire for acceptance and security, which should have been offered but wasn't offered in real life. On a Reddit thread about Usagi Job's ending, this Redditor's comment perfectly summed this up. Honestly, I can relate to Usagi Job's ending. He provided a home for her, was always there to support her. Growing up being neglected by my family, I'd probably also fall for someone who offers that level of stability. I hate it that I can relate. So yeah, anyhow, I'm very curious to hear about everyone's opinions on this subject, so feel free to leave a comment. Thanks for watching.